Welcome to the House Therapy, the podcast that helps you to create a home that you love to live in. I'm Nina Dwaron, owner and lead designer at ISO Design and Interiors. And each week, we're going to explore practical ways to help bring more beauty, function, and flow into your space. From design and staging to organizing, downsizing, and everything in between. If you want a home that truly supports your life and your family, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back to the House Therapy podcast, where we talk about real homes and real decisions and how to make smart choices. Today, I am joined by Marlon Galea. Is it Galea?
Galea or Galea? Either
Galea, one. Okay. From Upfront Renovations. Marlon is a general contractor with over 20 years of experience. And he has a very honest approach to renovations and remodeling of residential and commercial properties. And in this episode, we are pulling back the curtain on what homeowners must know before starting any renovation projects and investment, whether it is to love or to sell. And we're going to be talking about common mistakes and some red flags and to watch out for, and even budgeting realities, which often gets blown out of the water, and questions that you should always ask a contractor before you sign anything away and making a deposit as well. So if you are planning a renovation now or even just thinking about one in the near future, this conversation is really going to help you avoid some of those costly surprises and mistakes, and it's going to help you make more confident decisions about who you work with and how to approach your remodeling project. Okay, so welcome, Marlon. I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join me today.
Thank you very much, Nina. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's like you know what we're gonna talk about. Like it's I part of what I do is I do help clients with interior design and redecorating projects, and I work with a lot of contractors too. And sometimes, what I've heard is time and time again is that, some homeowners have some really horrible experiences in working with contractors. I know you're not one of them, which is why I have you on the show to share your knowledge, your experience, and, some of the things that you've experienced or witnessed along the way too. So hopefully together we can provide the audience with some valuable insights and information as they plan their own project, right?
I'll do my best to inform potential clients as much as possible.
Yeah.
Looking at the little things they can do to protect themselves when it comes to entering in a renovation, especially when you're dealing with someone's home, when it's a highly emotional type of deal, and you want to make sure you do your due diligence and research prior to contacting a contractor.
All right, so let me jump right into some of the questions I want to ask you. So, to start the conversation, and then we'll see where that takes us, okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, what are, some of the questions you wish that homeowners would ask or should ask before hiring a contractor?
Yeah, I think what the best way to handle starting off a project, especially if it's one of your first ones, is to do some research prior to talking to a contractor. The more knowledge you have about what you want to do and what your vision is when it comes to your project, and doing a little Google or ChatGPT type of research, finding out the highs and lows, the ranges that we're dealing with these days, really protects you and gets you set up for when you're meeting a contractor to be able to ask them the proper questions. For instance, whether they're experienced with the type of project you're dealing with, how they deal with change orders, how long they've been in the business, and do they work in your particular area. A lot of times people enjoy shopping local, and we are big in that as well. And you want somebody that that's going to be there for the long haul for you.
Yes, for sure. Like one of the things that I hear so often from other people who've worked with contractors and not just general contractor, contractor of any sort, is that, they come, they take the deposit, they do a little bit of work, and then they're no show, or they come back like, weeks later and then no show again. So the project gets stretched out for such a lengthy period. And sometimes they just stop showing up altogether, right? So, when working, like you said, working with a contractor, it is so important to do your due diligence and the research and and finding out the experience and reviews, right? Wouldn't you say like reviews is something that is so key? And I don't know. I always recommend that the client or the homeowner should contact some of the testimonials and speak directly to them. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Being in the business for over 20 years, I'm very proud of all my reviews and all my testimonials. I give references upon request.
References was the word I was looking for.
Great. I try to offer whatever references individuals want for their projects. I've done so many projects now that I can give references usually specific to the type of job they're doing. Are they doing a kitchen? Are they doing a bathroom? What helps protect homeowners when it comes to dealing with contractors is a contractor educating them on their process. If your contractor is saying words like, oh, don't worry about it, or we can handle it, and not back that up with knowledge, not back that up with a process, then that usually is a red flag when it comes to dealing with contractors. Another one would be too big of a down payment. I need 80% of the money up front. That's absolutely ridiculous when it comes to the project. Financing does work with the client and the contractor. There always is some type of 25 to 30% deposit at the beginning so we can source all the materials. But the client is part of the process. How we do things at Upfront Renovations is we work with the clients and they understand the process from beginning to end, and they work with you. They have the knowledge so they know what's going on and when it's going on.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I was just about to ask you, what is a reasonable deposit to ask for? And yeah, 25% seems very reasonable to me.
Yeah, we usually work is once the contract is signed, we get a 5% deposit. And then on the start date, we get another 25% deposit. So it's 30% before anything happens.
Yeah.
That being said, the client understands exactly where that's going when it comes to dealing with all the trades, making sure everybody shows up and on time and execute the job correctly.
That makes sense.
Any contractor worth his salt is going to be transparent as they can be when it comes to how the finance works and where that money is going and when it's going there.
Yeah, because like from a payment standpoint, it's I hate to talk about payment and money and whatnot because it's not a comfortable topic, but the reason for the deposit is important because then you have a team of people that you need to pay when even before the project even started. And so like on the flip side for us working with homeowners as well is that sometimes chasing payments is time consuming, and that's not where we should be best spending our time, right? Our focus should be on the project and producing results for the clients, not chasing payments. And so those deposits and the payment structure helps with that.
Absolutely. One misconception when it comes to the payment structure is that people think that we don't start working until we show up at your house on day one. But really the work starts prior. It starts with the first meetings. It starts with finding out what the client wants to do, and actually what I also want to know why they want to do it. And the reason why is so important to me is because I can use my expertise and experience to say, hey, maybe something can be done another way. I'm honest to the point where I've talked myself out of projects because I let my clients know or potential clients know that, might not be the smartest thing to do right now, or maybe you want to do this project first and then this project second. A perfect example would be any renovations you want to do on a second floor, and then making sure that if you want to get your stairs done, you do the renovations upstairs first and do your stairs second. That way we don't have to bubble wrap your entire staircase in order for us to be able to function back and forth.
You know what? I've made that very same mistake in my own home years and years and years ago before I even gotten into the business. And yeah, that was a very silly mistake I work from downstairs up, which is silly.
Yeah, I try to, well, the main reason people do that is because the more important rooms are usually downstairs.
100%.
It's all about kitchens and bathrooms. Yes. And eye appeal for when you have visitors, and obviously people think of their downstairs first. So that's why I kind of want to know what your plans are, not only for the next 6 months, but even for the next 6 years. Are you planning to do certain projects upstairs that are going to be extensive and maybe important to do first prior to tackling something downstairs?
Right. No, that makes so much sense. But at the time, like you said, I wanted the main floor, the primary spaces to be done first. So yeah, that makes sense. Now, in addition to what we've just talked about, some of the budgeting and planning, like what are some other mistakes that you've observed that people have made before they even call a contractor?
Well, the first thing I would say is knowing what you want to get done now and what you want to get done in the future. Also, these days, research is a lot easier than it ever used to be. So researching as much as you can, not just the pictures, but also looking at budgeting. What is the average bathroom cost these days? What do the average tile cost these days? Really trying to educate yourself as much as you can, so when you're actually contact a contractor, you can work with them and find out what the best plan is for your renovation moving forward.
Yeah.
I find sometimes clients want the contractor to come in first and talk to them about their project, but without the proper detailed information, it's challenging for a contractor to be able to give them what they need to move forward.
But even with that, like with all the tools that we have at our fingertips now to do research and stuff like that, even doing that, do you find that clients will come with this vision that does seem out of reach with their budget because they're looking at things incorrectly, information that is dated and things like that? Because, since the pandemic, prices of raw materials have really changed. And, even when I'm dealing with clients who are preparing to sell, they're still thinking about pricing from like 4 years ago. Do you experience that at all?
Unfortunately, absolutely. That being in the business for as long as I have, that's always an issue where people think, something costs X amount of dollars and they don't realize that everything has gone up when it comes to pricing, raw materials, finished materials. COVID was a big adjustment upwards when it comes to material cost and labor costs across the board. Right. So people have to understand how that works. How I always try to explain to my clients is, if you bought your house for $500,000 and now it's worth $1 million, it's not just because of the market, it's also because of what it needs to be done to build that house today as opposed to back then. And everything goes up with that. So they have to keep that in mind, that yes, they're paying more for a renovation, but also adding more value to their home.
Way more value to their home. Because, when people buy a home these days, even though we've had adjustments over the last year or so, 18 months, it's still very expensive right now. And, once they can buy a home, they don't have a lot of, extra money left over to do the update. So the more you do up front, the the better it would be to sell the home as well.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why I always try to find out the reasoning behind a renovation, because it's tough to look at any price point at these days and say I'm getting a good deal.
Yeah.
But what we have to look at is that am I getting value for what we're doing? And
Yes.
that's what the most important thing is, value over pricing.
Yes. Well, that leads me to my kind of a good segue to my next question is that, we obviously we encourage homeowners to do the research and get multiple quotes, right?
Absolutely.
Like, some quote just does seem too good to be true, right? Like, especially if people are price conscious and they go with the lowest price. There is that saying that goes, you get what you pay for, right? And, talk to me about some of that. Like, have you ever had to deal with coming in and fixing mistakes?
Absolutely. More more often than that I like to admit is that when we do the bidding process, our pricing are based on executing the job correctly. And they cannot be adjusted or discounted because it's based on executing it well. Regardless if you're using a tile that costs $5 or $25, the substrate behind it has to be properly done and has to be properly done by a professional who knows what they're doing.
100%.
So that is very important.
And the thing that comes with renovations is that, like, I don't have a percentage to put to that, but like so much of the cost, it's hidden that you can't see. It's not the finishing stuff. It's
Absolutely.
up underneath and behind walls and up in the roofs and stuff like that, right?
Well, what I do try to do with my clients during a project, especially if it's a large project where a lot of our work is behind the walls, is make sure I take pictures and take video when necessary and let them know all these different things are done. Yes, we use the proper lumber. Yes, we use the proper insulation with vapor barrier. Yes, we're protecting you. If we see an issue, we bring it to their attention and tell them the reason why we should be rectifying the situation before we close the walls. Your home is usually your biggest investment of your life, and you want to protect it like you protect any family member. That's how I kind of equate it to it. You have to deal with it when it's sick and make sure that you do it properly so it doesn't get sick again.
Yeah. And I've used this analogy in the past where, you treat your home like your body, right? What you put into it matters, with your body. If you're not putting in good, nutritious foods, it's going to suffer just like your home.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's one of those most important things to do is to make sure that things are done from the ground up in a proper way. The bigger the project, the more important it is. And any contractor will explain to you exactly why they're doing certain things in order for the client to feel comfortable that not only do they have the knowledge to talk about it, but also to execute it.
Yes, for sure. I actually have a story to share with you. So this was years ago. My dad wanted to open up a wall in his living room. And without talking to me, my dad kind of does his own thing. My dad's passed on now, but he does his own thing. He knows best, and he went out and he hired a couple of guys. I don't know where he found them. And he asked them to open up the wall, which they did, but they didn't do it properly. They didn't put in a beam. They didn't do anything. Literally, they knocked down the wall and then patched it back up. And as how long was it? Maybe a year and a half. We watched as is it the joist, where, because there was no beam, it started to kind of, what's
Drop?
that word?
Sag?
Yeah, it started to sag. You could see the ceiling sagging. It was so scary. We thought that the ceiling was going to come down. Anyway, that was a big fix. that we had to do. We had to bring in the people who knew what they were doing, put in a proper beam and stuff like that, and the proper posts of the beam.
Absolutely. Being a general contractor and being in charge of all the trades, I run into it all the time where clients want to kind of be half the contractor themselves. They want to be the lead and take care of the trades, and I can understand that. They think that there's a value in that because they're not having to worry about, for instance, paying for me.
Yes.
And the issue with that is that not only do they not have the knowledge, they don't have the infrastructure of tradesmen that know what they're doing and are going to be on call for someone like myself. I've worked with many fantastic tradesmen. I'm very lucky to have a network that I've established over the many years. And when my guys come in, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're not afraid to say no. We should not do something that way. And I find that is sometimes the issue when it comes to dealing with trades or contractors, is that sometimes the answer is no, or sometimes the answer isn't what you want. No, I cannot remove that wall without a beam being there, for instance, is a perfect example. I see it very often where people want to open up their kitchens and they want to remove a wall, and they think, oh, you know what? I can just remove that middle of that wall and it'll be fine. They don't understand the spans or point loads or all the things that we've learned through schooling and through experience to make sure you do something that is not only beautiful but safe.
Yeah, that is some scary shortcuts, let me tell you. It was
I'll tell
scary.
you a story.
Every time I went over to my dad's house, I would look at this seam that was kept separating every time it was there. It was scary.
You'd be surprised what people are comfortable doing in their own homes, and when we come in sometimes we see some scary things as well. I remember being in downtown Toronto with one of those large brownstone 3-story homes, semi-detached. Somebody wanted me to come in and take a look at their basement. Underpinning was part of the project, and underpinning, just not to bore you with the details, but underpinning has to be done in certain sections to maintain a structure of a home. I climbed down the ladder into the basement, and they removed the entire one side of all the dirt and all the footings for the entire side of the floor.
Oh my gosh.
It was absolutely scary. I didn't.
In a 3-story house too.
I didn't even proceed, and what ended up happening is the house separated from its semi-detached partner.
Oh my
And
gosh.
split the roof above. They had to not only condemn the one house, but both of them until it was rectified because it was just completely unsafe.
But was that the builder's fault?
It was the homeowner who hired some gentlemen to come in and dig out the basement because he knew that was the first step when it comes to doing the underpinning, not realizing that you cannot just remove all of the structure prior to starting. It's just, unfortunately, they didn't not only talk to an engineer, but they didn't even talk to any type of contractor prior to trying to pull that trigger.
Yeah, that is very scary. And that's the thing, like as homeowner, I'm a homeowner myself, we place so much trust in the people we bring into our homes, and sometimes they just let us down, and it's very disappointing. And it harms not just that individual and that company, but it really harms the industry as well.
Absolutely. I've been in the business long enough that, of course, things arise that you don't foresee, projects taking longer than you want them to be. What I always try to tell my clients is that even if we are taking longer in a project, we're taking longer for a reason, because we want to make sure everything is done correctly. And if it goes over a week, if it goes over a month, know that 6 months later, that project is sound and you'll be happy with that. One of the biggest things I find when it comes to clients and homeowners especially is the emotional effect of a renovation, regardless of how well it's going and regardless of how clockwork everything is. We're disrupting your home. I say this part of my spiel, no matter what the project is, especially if it's multiple weeks, there's going to be a time where you're not going to like me very much. No matter how well we're doing, you're waking up earlier because I'm showing up early. You're staying there later because I'm staying there later. My waste bin is taking one of your parking spots, and so is my tradesman. So now you have half a garage and half a driveway. These are things that people have to take in consideration when we come in and do these renovations and they're living in the home at the time. We are, in essence, living with each other during that. So we're roommates as such for the duration of that project. And that's where you have to make sure that you are ready for that portion, not just ready financially. Are you ready emotionally to be disrupted?
So for for a major renovation where you're working in multiple spaces, do you then recommend that the homeowners move out for the duration so that, they don't experience this, these difficulties that you've mentioned?
Absolutely. If the project is large enough and they don't have a place where they can relocate during that period of time, we definitely recommend them leaving and finding elsewhere to accommodate themselves prior to us coming in, so that way they're not dealing with that disruption. A lot of times what I try to do, for instance, if I'm doing a full kitchen renovation, I try to do that in summer. So that way people can barbecue, people can, it's a lot easier to deal with without having a kitchen if it's summer or spring or fall than dealing with it in the middle of winter where that is your only option. I try to work with my clients, and that's part of our process as well. Where are you going to be when this project is happening? And letting them know what they're going to have to deal with when it comes to disruption, and hopefully prepare them as much as I can for what's coming.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That makes so much sense. Okay, let's talk a little bit about budgeting and the money part of a renovation. So, what would you say that an area where homeowners often make a mistake about budgeting and then it gets completely blown out? What are some of those mistakes that people make?
Well, prior to a project, I find the area that most homeowners undervalue when it comes to the projects are bathrooms. People have a misconception that since a bathroom is only 8 by 10 or whatever the size it is, it's only a small space. It's not going to cost as much as, for instance, dealing with the main floor. Mm-hmm. And that is a misconception, because in that bathroom project, every single trade is being used in order for you to execute that project. And that's where all the budgeting comes in. You're dealing with someone for demo, you're doing electrical, plumbing, tiling, drywall work. It's the whole gambit in that small space. Mm-hmm. And the small space actually becomes a negative for budgeting because we can't do two things at once. We can only do one thing at a time with a limited space. So that's one thing I definitely find, that sometimes do your due diligence, talk to people. Looking at reviews and talking to people are great, but most people have a great network of people who have actually had renovations done and can give you a little bit of insight of how it was going through the project, especially if this is your first one.
Yeah, for sure. And like kitchens and bathrooms sells homes because they have a lot of value, but they're also the most expensive spaces to renovate as well.
Absolutely. Cabinetry and tile are one of the more, or countertops, depending on which one you're choosing. These things can definitely, there's budgets of this one space of a kitchen that are, 40, 50,000, but you could easily double that number to $90,000, $100,000 just on material selections. Right. So you really have to think about what you want and how much you're willing to pay for what you want. The old adage of champagne taste on a beer budget comes to mind, of course, but it is true that way. What I always find is I deal with clients, and if they have a budget that they want to, keep intact, I try to direct them towards materials that give them the same type of effect, but don't knock their lights out when it comes to the actual budget itself.
For sure, for sure. Like materials matter, right? Like you said earlier, tiles could be
Absolutely.
$5 a square feet versus $25 or even more, right? So
Absolutely. It's flabbergasting the
yeah,
difference sometimes. And
yeah,
that's another thing with contractors that do work with their clients directly. They go through the materials with them and find out why the clients want a certain material. And maybe you can find an alternative that is not as flashy, but flashy enough where you're getting the value for that square footage.
yeah, for sure. Like, so one of my clients, when I went and met with them initially, I asked them what their budget is. Of course, they gave me their, wish list, the laundry list of things that they want to do in their home. And then I asked them what's their budget. And that included replacing flooring and whatnot too. So, and I know flooring is expensive. So they gave me a budget of $50,000. And of course, part of what I do as through my design work is that I help them work out a budget as well. And they're preliminary, right? This is before trade day, before I bring in, contractors like you to quote, et cetera. But, I have enough experience that I can build out reasonable budget, but I always caution my client that this is, my estimate. This is not without the contractor's input yet. But he gave me a budget of $50,000 and I worked it out and I came back based on everything that they wanted to do and I gave him a preliminary budget of 120,000. So that was a huge gap from what he gave me as a budget, and that tells you what homeowners think about the type of work that needs to be done and the cost, right? Like it's like
Absolutely.
the two just kind of don't add up.
Absolutely. I find that all the time. Unfortunately, in my industry, when I come in and I ask potential clients what's their budget, they're hesitant to tell me because they think whatever number they give me is going to affect my pricing.
Yeah,
And rest
I get
assured,
that.
it does not affect it whatsoever. If I'm not going to be able to change my budgeting in order to fit someone's budget, because I don't want to be able, I want to be able to execute the project the way it should be done.
Yeah, yes. Part of what I do with my intake form when I do work on a design project, part of my intake form is I ask them what's their taste, right?
Right.
Like, is their taste like Mercedes? And then I ask them what's their budget. Is it a Ford budget, but wanting a Mercedes kind of
Fair.
design taste, right? So
Fair.
that helps me to kind of understand where they're at so that I know how to properly help them to budget for the project as well.
Well, I find a big bonus is working with designers like yourself who kind of do all of that, setting up with the client prior to me coming in,
Yes.
because you guys can have those difficult conversations about adjusting expectations when it comes to budget and execution. So when I come in a little cleaner and they understand that, okay, you know what, we have our plan. Now this individual is going to take that plan and create an execution plan for it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So now when homeowners are doing their research and interviewing different contractors, what would you say are some red flags or caution that they should be looking out for, listening for,
Well,
aside from all the things that we've already discussed?
right. Trust your instincts is one thing I would always say when it comes to dealing with construction or renovations. Ask a lot of questions and listen to their answers. A contractor who cares about your project is going to take the time to sit down with you and go over details when it comes to the project. In my case, I like educating my clients of the process and why things cost what they cost. It's not like we're doing rocket science here. It's pretty straightforward when it comes to what we're trying to execute. And you shouldn't be afraid to be able to ask contractors questions about how they handle things. How do they handle things that come up? How do they handle logistics when it comes to even bringing materials into your home? Contractors that visit homes are not only looking to meet the clients, but they're also looking at logistics of executing a project when it comes to available space in front, available space in back, access to the home. These are all things that a good contractor is going to look at and will keep the client at ease because they understand that they're looking at all the different things to execute said project.
Yeah, yeah. So I have another story. So I think I told you this one already.
Maybe.
That I late last year I had a client that I was working with, and she hired a contractor herself on her own and managed this. So this I was doing something else with her for her. It wasn't about, managing the renovation, but she had her entire flooring replaced, the stairs, downstairs and upstairs, like the whole thing done. And the contractor cut the wood inside the house and not covered anything up. And the layer of dust that was in the house was, I couldn't even describe the amount of dirt and dust that's going to be there for years to come, that is going to be hidden in the ductworks and whatnot. So, how could homeowners get to that kind of information to know that the contractors are going to, do well by the homeowner and not cause this kind of stress? Because she was stressed.
Understandable, and that's egregious to be able to cut in someone's home like that. Well, that's where doing your due diligence and asking questions of the homeowner when it comes to, like, so for instance, someone doing an entire floor of flooring, they know there's going to be a lot of cutting. The contractor should be asking what location I have in order to cut said materials. I'll tell you a story about a condominium job we did where I don't want to say the client was a hoarder. I just want to say that they
had a lot of stuff.
Very fond with a lot of collectibles and a lot of shelving that went with these collectibles. We were doing their both bathrooms and their kitchen and having to go through these areas. So we ended up actually creating corridors of plastic sheeting going from one area to the other using standing poles so that we protected we couldn't move anything. And it was too much to cover. So what we did is we covered our corridors and we made like a Dexter-like kill rooms where we can do all our cutting. Any contractor that's worth their salt cares about that stuff. Of course, there's going to be dust. Of course, there's going to be dirt. That's part of doing a renovation.
Yeah.
But trying to mitigate these things correctly and logically is part of our job.
Yes, and that's what surprised me, that they didn't even think of doing that. Like, they didn't care enough about the homeowner's possessions not to cover it up and take care of it. Like, that just shocked me.
I find being a general contractor, a lot of tradespeople don't think about that insight because they're not dealing with the homeowners on a regular basis. They are dealing with contractors. So I have to make sure all my trades are doing their job correctly, and that includes where they're going to cut, cleaning up after jobs. Like, we're big on the last 20 minutes of every project is cleaning the entire site. We leave that site so when we come in the morning, everything is clean, everything is swept, vacuumed, mopped, whatever we need to do in order to start the next day correctly. And unfortunately, not all trades think that way. They come in, do a job and leave, especially if their trades are used to dealing with newer homes where you can get away with things like that because they're going to have some type of cleaning crew come in or someone comes in after the fact. Yeah. That's the importance of having a contractor being able to look at all these different things and making sure that things are executed correctly when it comes to installation, when it comes to cutting, and when it comes to cleanup.
Yeah, but that too speaks to professionalism too, right? And that type of thinking really matters. Like when I do an organizing project for a client, and when we're organizing, it always looks worse before it looks better, right? And
Absolutely.
when we're on a multi-day project, at the end of the day, we always tidy up and organize it so that the home remains livable. We would never leave at the end of the day with stuff all over the place. Like that's just irresponsible and so unprofessional.
Absolutely. And that's where it's important for your contractor to have respect for the location that they're working in. And I find unfortunately, a lot of contractors don't think in those terms. I really understand and respect that when I'm coming into someone's home, it's someone's home, not just a building, not just a house. People live here. People love here and cry here. That's where the emotional impact of a project really matters. And that's why when I talk to my clients, I let them understand how things are going to get done and how we're going to mitigate that stuff as much as possible. So that way it can be more smooth sailing throughout a project.
Amazing. I love that. I love hearing that from you. And that's what makes you different. Okay, let's talk about some fun stuff. Like let's see if our two worlds merge in this area.
Sure.
What trends do you see is kind of on the rise when it comes to renovation? What are people asking for? What are people looking for right now?
Well, I find when it comes to especially residential renovations, it's sticking true to the things we were discussing earlier. Bathrooms and kitchens. That's where people are looking. What I find changes is the color schemes. Oh, and the trends. I hear a lot of the words of, I want something that's going to last. I want something that's not going to be outdated in 5 years from now. So that's what I find, and dealing with designers like yourself really can pinpoint exactly what the client is looking for, and also be able to guide them to a design that's going to be happy today and happy in 5 years from now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, if there was one or two spaces that people should look at updating and renovating, what would you say those spaces should be that they should plan for and budget for and save for?
Uh, Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's that again where you're looking at bathrooms and you're looking at kitchens. I always tell people, and this goes to what we were discussing earlier. If you're looking to renovate all your bathrooms, most homes have 3, 4 bathrooms. Start from the top down. Do your master bathroom or guest bathroom first. Do one at a time, so that way you have functionality for everything else, and
Yes.
then work your way down. When it comes to freshening up a home and maybe making it for sale, then you go to the true painting. Nothing beats giving a nice coat, fresh coat of paint everywhere. Fix any repairs that has to be done so the house looks fresh and nice. That's
Yes.
where I always tell clients, you can't waste money painting your home, because the price that you're paying is usually much less than the value you're getting and how your home looks aesthetically.
Right, right. Yeah, and that aligns with what I do, because my job is all about the visuals and the pretty things, right? Things that people
Right.
see. But like, what would your recommendation be for keeping things current and up to date with things that are hidden, like roofs and insulation and electrical and things like that? Like what are your thoughts in those areas that are not always seen but can be costly?
I would try to say to look at the signs of areas that need to be renovated or need to be corrected. For roofs, for instance, don't be afraid to go into your attic. It's not a pleasurable space.
It's scary up there.
It's scary. It's for a guy like me. Let me tell you, it's pretty tight getting into that thing. Sometimes I
Yeah.
can't fit through it. I got to get some other guy to do it.
Yeah.
But you want to go up there and see the bottom of your roof, because that's really going to tell you the signs of how your roof is working. And then you look at things on top of the roof, like your tiles, your shingles splitting, your shingles separating, cupping. these are important things. Roofs in particular are very important when it comes to the home because it's protecting everything underneath. So even though it's not the most fun thing to deal with, I would say if you need a roof or a new kitchen, start with your roof and work on getting your kitchen done afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. Because even though it's hidden and not seen, it still adds significant value to your home because those things are expensive to replace.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where it's not the sexy thing to do. It's not the thing you're going to be staring at and enjoying. But
Yes.
when they fail, then everything below doesn't really matter because everything is unprotected now. And speaking through experience where I've dealt with major leaks in a home where it goes through the entire place, it can do significant damage to your home. And now you're dealing with not only being displaced when you don't plan to be so, now you're dealing with insurance companies, and now you're dealing with more emergency repairs, which always cost more than something you plan for. That's why it's important to plan for anything. The way you say is your home is like your body. It's the same thing. If you see something that doesn't look right, then talk to a professional to find out why.
Yes, maintain, right?
Main-
Maintenance is important.
Maintenance is very important, and that's what we try to focus on. I, of course, want to make things as beautiful as possible, especially working with designers like yourself that help me when it comes to color schemes, choices, fabrics, being textures, all these things. And I'm an amateur guy when it comes to that stuff, just based on my knowledge. I wouldn't definitely sell my services in that, but I can give you my best advice when it comes to how the best way to execute things to protect your home. Another thing like sealing your home up, making sure all your caulking is done correctly on all your windows and all your doors. Little things like that can go a heck of a long way when it comes to maintaining your home and also keeping you away from preventable damage that you're going to eventually pay for later.
Right, right. Well, my next question is, when collaborating with designers like myself, what would you wish that we would know better, so that we have a better, stronger relationship in executing the project for the client?
I think the best thing to do when it comes to when I work with designers, and I've been lucky to work with some good people such as yourself, and I think to make sure that you're designing something that is first of all possible and executable and within budget restraints. That's a lot of time there's issues where people wanted, like removing walls inside a home. People think, okay, I'm just removing the wall. I'm minusing something, so it's not a big deal. But they're not realizing that over a certain amount of span, we have to actually go down through their basement floor, open it up, create a footing, and then create structure from that point all the way up to the first or second floor, even depending on where we are. So sometimes little things look little, but to execute them correctly and safely are a much bigger ticket item than you think. For instance, waterproofing would be a perfect example. I just finished a project where we did a basement. The builder put insulation like they do on the exterior walls, which I find is kind of useless. We ripped down the insulation and they had 4 major cracks in their foundation.
As things settle, right?
Right. $5,000 later, they were injected with epoxy in order for us to move forward with the renovation. There's $5,000 that people are not budgeting for,
No,
not thinking about,
no.
but something that is absolutely necessary if you want to protect all the finishes that are going to go in front of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
I try to educate any designer I'm working with. The biggest thing is trading information and trading education. I try to be available to them while they're making their budgets, while they're making their plans. My door is always open, so to speak. If you want to ask me any questions that will help facilitate something and in a correct manner and be able to execute it. I find that my job is execution, where I find planning is very easy to do correctly and then execution becomes easy. But when those things are disjointed, issues can arise.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And communication. Communication is
Absolutely.
very, very key.
These days we have the ability to text and video chat and call. We have a lot of modes of communication to keep those open and make sure that everybody is part of that. One of the things I always do with all my clients is make sure we have a text string, be normal text or WhatsApp, with everybody that's concerned with this project, not just the husband or the wife or both, but anybody that wants to kind of see what's going on. Because I find the bigger the team, you never know where ideas come from or information comes from, but the more the better. You can never have too much information, and you can never have too much planning, especially when you're dealing with a larger project in someone's home.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much. Now, we've through this discussion, I think people have had an opportunity to really learn about you and your approach. But what else do you want to share with people that makes Upfront Renovation different?
I think you touched on it before, and we're a family business, and we understand that we're a family business working for families. So what makes us different is we actually care. I know that's been said 1,000 times by 1,000 people, but I have the gray hair to show that I actually care for all my clients, because I have a gray hair for all of them, regardless of the project. And open communication is a big deal. I obviously like to talk to my clients. I like to meet with my clients. I like to find out not just what they want, but why they want it. And I find that gives me a window into what their motivation is. And I find connecting the motivation, the emotional attachment to a project, and then executing the project all together leaves the project a lot better off than it could have been when you just think about bringing in some tradesmen and trying to execute as best you can.
Yes, yes. And if people want to reach out to you and discuss their possible project with you, how can they reach you, Marlon?
Oh, I'm available on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. My wife takes care of that, so I'm not too privy when it comes to that stuff. And also my website, upfrontrenovations.ca. Shoot me, Marlon at upfrontrenovations.ca. By all means, send me an email, and we can discuss anything you want to discuss. I've had numerous conversations with potential clients that didn't end up moving forward with me, and I have no problem educating people who want to learn more about the process because they're thinking about doing something in years forward. Because I always find it always comes back, and I don't only want to help my company, but I also want to help my industry. Being one of the caring, more experienced contractors, it hurts us when we hear about somebody getting fleeced because they gave them 90% of the money and they showed up, ripped out their cabinetry, and disappeared.
And left, yeah.
And left. It happened. I personally don't understand or how people can live with themselves doing that to clients. Like, it's just absolutely horrific to me. Yeah. But unfortunately, that is the reputation that is in our industry, because there's a lot of people out there that are working in the industry that really shouldn't be.
Which is why I wanted to have you on the show, because I want to show homeowners, there's a different side to working with reputable and professional and experienced contractors, and it's important to not always base it on price alone, because honestly, you do get what you pay for.
Absolutely. Like, obviously, we don't have a blank check when it comes to dealing with projects, But I always find that if you don't do all your due diligence when it comes to picking the proper contractor, a contractor should be able to answer every questions and take the time to do so. If you find they're too busy, or they come in, they take a look and walk out the door, give you a price in 5 minutes, then it really shows what they think about when it comes to the project. They're just trying to get the money and get out.
Right.
I try to let clients know that that's not the way it should be.
Yeah. No.
There's no bad questions. There are, you know what I mean? They're just, the only bad question is a question unspoken.
Yes. All right. So any final advice, Marlon, you want to share?
The only thing I would say is, with pricing and everything going up, and houses not matching it at the particular time, be careful on what you want to do and how you want to do it. That being said, there are good contractors out there that care about their work, that care about how they execute their work, and they want to work with homeowners in order to make the maximum impact on their homes and their lives. It gives me a lot of joy to see my work in action. A lot of times clients will invite me after it's furnished and all decorated nicely. I can take my pictures, and nothing makes me feel better than seeing people enjoy the work that we put in, or happy with the vision that we created together.
I know, right? It's such a good feeling. I love that part.
Absolutely. It gives you a good feeling inside when you go through a situation together, because like I said before, it's a relationship. If it's a longer project, it's an absolute relationship. And you have to think as that as well when it comes to choosing your contractor. Do I see myself being able to talk to this individual and find out the information I need to find out, and not feel bad about asking it, not feeling guilty, not feeling like I'm bothering them? These things should not be part of the process.
Right.
My educating my clients is my greatest reward when it comes to dealing with everything that they have to deal with, because those conversations that we have at the beginning always come around at the end and make the process a heck of a lot easier.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Marlon. I really appreciate you being here today. And for our listeners, I'm going to include Marlon's full contact information in the show notes below. So it was such a conversation with you today, Marlon, and I really hope that it's helped you, our listeners, to feel more informed and more confident about your upcoming planning and renovation projects. And if you are a homeowner and you found yourself nodding along to some of the things that we've talked about, and were thinking that I wish I knew this sooner, I hope you enjoyed this episode and like it. Please comment and share this with someone you know who could use this learning as well, okay? And if you are planning a renovation or preparing your home for sale and need some help aligning your design decisions with real life use and long-term value, you can book a design or staging consultation with me through the link in the show notes, okay? And if this episode really, like I said, resonates with you, please comment, share, and like. And thank you for listening. And as I've always said, if you take care of your home, it'll take care of you. Until next time, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to the House Therapy Podcast. If today's episode inspired you, be sure to follow the show and share it with someone who would love it too. For more tips, resources, or to work with me directly, visit isodesign.ca. Until next time, remember, with a little effort, every home can be beautiful and every space can be functional. And remember, you deserve it.